Hello, beautiful, fun, exciting people. Welcome back to the greatest podcast ever created since the times of the Bible. This is Jake McHugh's podcast with Ethan Bodsford. And we're back for another episode featuring your questions. But first, before we get into it, just a few updates. As the podcast is getting better because I'm learning how to actually speak, we are going to have some guests on at some point, which is going to be really exciting. And they're not just my friends from school, so you don't have to worry about. I mean, maybe some of them will be, but it's not just my inner circle. And also, just because I'm excited about it, I got into this big program by a guy named Seth Godin and his workshop Akimbo. So I'm in the Emerging Leaders program, which is going to be in June. Thank you, Ethan. I feel like the reaction button now is making me excited. So, yeah. So I guess we'll just dive in. Ethan, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am waiting for some new equipment so I can do some more music videos. So, and the time being, we're just stalling. So,
what kind of equipment did you pick up?
I haven't gotten any at the moment, but I'm going to. And I'm starting with a hard drive so I can back up my files. And that has been delayed, so now everything else is delayed. Ooh. And there's some other stuff going on that I have to figure out before I can make the next purchase. So,
gotcha.
But with all that being said, without further ado, let's dive into it. Ethan's going to read the questions, and then I'm going to answer. And then if Ethan wants to answer, which he will provide his own opinion on it. And I hope we'll have at least one disagreement, but not a fake one, because that'll be really interesting if we can get a discussion going. So let's just go right into it.
Cool. So, first
question.
Wait,
hold on. I'm so sorry. One more thing. Some of these questions are really goofy. And I don't know why, but we're starting with the goofy ones, and then we're getting into the serious ones. And the reason why is because I don't want to go into something deep and then have a really weird question about fruit. So, and believe it or not, this isn't even all of them. I had some that were so weird, I was just like, I'm not even adding it to the show. So, yeah, that's just a disclaimer that you're going to hear some questions that I wouldn't have picked myself necessarily. Like, I wouldn't have expected people to ask them, but I think they're interesting. So here we go. You ready?
Yeah. So, speaking of fruit, here's our first question, Jake. Favorite orange, the fruit or the color?
So this one's pretty easy to me because I'm not a big fruit guy, but for all those wondering, orange, the color, is definitely my favorite. Makes it easy when you don't like fruit that much.
Yeah, so it's mainly the aggressive citrus of the orange that makes me not like it. I don't want to deal with that every day. So color orange for me as well.
For me, it's like, here's the problem with fruit. This is why America's fat, okay? Here I'm going to give you a very simple explanation as to why everyone's fat. Okay. It requires work to eat fruit. You can't just eat it.
You gotta peel it. Some fruits you have to dig your thumb into the fruit to peel it.
I know. You have to cut it up when you're done. You have to take seeds out. No potato chip has ever had to been peeled, and that is exactly the reason why our country is obese.
Now you think about it this way. Doing the work motivates you to eat it, though, because you think about it this way. I did all this work. I'd better get a prize after it, and your prize is being able to eat this delicious snack.
Except the catch with fruit is the fact that fruit is really inconsistent in taste. So sometimes you'll have an apple and it'll be amazing, and then you can have an apple from the same exact tree and it just tastes awful.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't have an inconsistent taste? Chips. That's what. Every chip you'll have, unless it's defective, is going to be exactly the same.
Have you ever had a green chip before, Jake?
No, I would consider that defective.
Yeah, they're awful.
Okay. All right, well, don't go to Ethan's house for a snack because you'll get some interesting things.
You'll be getting fruit in my house. Fruit.
Oh, definitely don't go. I'd rather have green chips.
Okay, are we ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Cool. What's your dream car?
This is a better question for Ethan, but just for the sake of consistency, I'll start. I'm not like a huge car person necessarily, which is kind of funny because I've worked with cars and stuff. I'm not like a car guy, but I've worked at an auto garage and stuff. Truck accessory shop. Shout out to Brian Allen's Truck Outfitters. But
Shameless plug.
yeah. With that being said, I don't know. There's something. So keep in mind, I don't know anything about really anything except for like the very basics. But my very stereotypical answer on this is going to be a Rolls Royce, and I have a reason why. It's not just because I see expensive things and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one, or otherwise I'd pick a Lamborghini probably. But the reason I choose the Rolls Royce is because I admire the attention to every detail being complete quality. And the fact that when you go into one, nothing's junky. Something I hate is an experience that's ruined by people forgetting small details. So that happens a lot when you go to a restaurant, and something that seems completely minute to, I guess, whoever is working there can ruin an experience entirely. And I think people forget that even when you're not a performer, you're still giving a performance when you're giving a service. So if you go to a restaurant, the table's covered in crumbs, the whole meal's ruined. At least in my opinion. I hate to be that guy, but it's just the way it is. When you go and spend money on something, even a car, if you go and spend money on a nice car, like you can get a BMW, you go inside a BMW, some parts are made out of flimsy plastic, just like the bare bones Chevy or the Kia. So even though it's higher end, it's the same. So that's my answer. Now Ethan's going to give a much more sophisticated answer, I expect.
So, personally, I am a car guy. I have worked on the 3 cars that I have owned in my life. All of them were worked on and died. 2 of them were worked. 3 of them were worked on. 2 of them died at my hand.
If you ever need car work, get Ethan to do it.
Look, man, we're not gonna get into that. One of them was not my fault. That was Subaru's fault. But I digress. Anyways, so really, my dream car top choice is between 2 cars. It's between either a 2001 to 2003 WRX, preferably the STI because of that bulletproof transmission, or any generation Volkswagen Golf GTI. They both have a great center of gravity. You stay low on the ground for track day, bro, and you can make them fast for cheap. So,
as you can see, we have the same guidelines as to how we choose our vehicles. So we both picked Rolls Royces. How great! No kidding. The WRX Rolls Royce, my favorite vehicle. Any more to add about the car thing?
Not really. I don't want to bore people with car facts because this isn't a car show.
Yeah, so. And even if it was, it wouldn't be that interesting.
Cool. All right. So the next one, how are you doing with social distancing?
Pretty good. I don't appreciate like being restricted, but the social aspect of it has been fine. I'm not really, I mean, I like social engagement. I like talking to people, but I am just equally as comfortable as spending time by myself. So it hasn't really been that difficult to me. I do wonder, which I think I've said before, but it's going to be really interesting to see if I think this has made us all crazy. Like if we go see each other for the next, like after all this is over, and then there's 2 months after this where everyone's just going to be like that overly enthusiastic person for 6 months. Hi, how are you? It's going to be like, all right, this is crazy. So I could see something like that where you got like this crazy, super wild extrovert thing going on. But, you know, how about you?
I've been doing all right with it. My biggest thing was, as far as social distancing goes, was when they had to implement online education. That kind of sucked. But I mean, I've been doing really fine. I'm capable of doing things on my own. I'd prefer to spend time with friends over that, but I am capable of doing things on my own. But other than that, I haven't really been having any issues as far as social distancing goes. I haven't been stuck in my home 24 hours a day, so to speak. Like just today I was over at a friend's house and we were just having a 4-person cookout. Like nothing too crazy. So things have been okay as far as my life goes.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the online classes was kind of a bummer. I don't know the conflict with the schools is they're paying all these people, so they have to give them work to do. But I don't know how useful it was for the most part. There are some things obviously that were still valuable, but um, I don't know if it was worth the cost of how much weight I've gained and how much muscle mass I've lost within the last like I don't know 6 years or whatever. How long this has been going? 50 decades. I can't remember.
Yeah. I completely agree. Another thing I just thought of that's really grinding my gears about this, I was gonna take this time to get swole at the gym, and now I can't do that.
Yeah, I was thinking about something similar, but it's okay. Yeah, the other thing is like the days it I can think of before this and it was like a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and what this feels like to me is someone painted a calendar in wet finger paint and then someone took a sponge and just smeared across the and so it's like Monday's Saturday, Friday, and then a week is over, and then it's another one of those. And I like it feels like it should be 10 a.m. and it's 4:30. So
Yeah.
that's really thrown me off. And if I were to give advice to someone that took it other than me, because I haven't taken it, I would say uh, implement some sort of extremely strict schedule so you can remember what time of day it is. But I'm not doing it, so don't act like I got it together on that one.
All right. We ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
If your life was a book, what would be the title? What would the title be?
Oh, that's not how I read that question. How to be Jake McHugh in 30 seconds. It'd be the fastest book ever. I don't know. I thought originally that question said like, what would you write a book about? Which I think is a better question to answer because that question is kind of like speed dating. Um, and I'm not exactly sure. I guess I would. One, I don't. If I thought I should write a book, I would. So, I don't think that I have a reason to yet, but maybe one day I will. But I guess I would write it on either some sort of development or like bettering kind of thing, like how to take action or something like that, or songwriting. I've written a few articles on songwriting, and it's been not too bad. I mean, I did it mostly to practice to see how to write an article and everything. So I don't know. It's a weird question to ask someone who is 20.
Yeah.
What about you?
This is gonna be kind of weird, but I'll elaborate. Um, the title, if my life was a book, the title of it would be "It's Going to Be Okay." And I say that because when my mother passed, um, I kind of just kept pushing through life. You know what I mean? And I eventually kind of got into that mindset of, yeah, things suck. Like things really suck, but whatever. I just have to keep going. Um, and people have asked me like, how are you coping with this the way you are? What are you doing? You're handling this in no way that I've ever seen. And I just say, I just keep telling myself it's gonna be okay. And if you're seeing this and you don't know if things will be okay, take a look at this, and I can guarantee you everything will be okay. So, you know,
Yeah, there you have it. I'm
big
not going to add anything on that.
big oof. Um, cool. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah, I think that's a good, I like what you said about that. I think that was a good answer.
Thank you.
I think sharing your story in a way where people can connect with it because death is something everyone has to deal with. So, yeah, I think that was great.
Yeah, and although death is something that everybody deals with, there there's kind of like a, I know that the word line is wrong, but that's the best word that I can think of without using the word social, like social structure or anything like that, because I hate using that word. Um, there's a certain line like, well, guys, grandma's 86, it's her time, or something like that. You know what I mean? But it was just really wacky losing your mother at 20 years old, you know? It was just
Yeah.
weird. So, but, you know,
We
it
had
gets to
also
be.
talked about like the hypothetical aspect of that before. Um,
Yeah,
the
dude,
situation.
like a day or two before the funeral, I was sitting there thinking, you know what? Me and Jake just talked about this thing before we left for winter break. Because I remember we were sitting in the dining hall. We were sitting in a spot that we don't normally sit because it was in the actual like mess hall section and not the fancy space. I don't know, just like when I thought about that, that was just really crazy to me.
Yeah, it's strange. I think what I took away from that conversation looking back is to not take anything for granted
Hmm.
and to I don't know if this is the right way to word it, but you don't want to expect the worst in the sense that you're paranoid and scared all the time, but just to try to be, I guess, accepting of what happens because you can't control what happens to other people.
Yeah,
So, let alone yourself. So, um, yeah, that's how I feel about that.
yeah, cool. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on with that question?
No, I was trying to find a way that we could transition smoothly into the next thing, but I think we can just
Yeah,
go into
we're
it.
we're fine. We can just keep going by list. It's all right. Um, how do you think the music world will change after the pandemic?
All right. So we talked about this in the last episode, so check it out if you want to hear us talk. But I now have had more time to think about it, so I thought we'd touch on it. And since this is a Q&A, people know to look for that question now in this. So first thing I would say, and anyone who says otherwise, I think I wouldn't believe for a second, is I don't know. Because who's to say? I think I'd say in a lot of ways, maybe looking for answers from people is not the right idea. Coming from me because, or anybody, because I've talked to people, musicians that I've looked up to about the situation, and I've gotten nothing but either cluelessness or bad news. And the truth is no one knows if it's going to be bad news in the end. And the other thing is I don't know if we're in a position where we should let other people decide how bad our lives are going to be after this is over. Now, with that being said, I am not someone who tries, I would never deny facts. So if you're in a situation where factually there is literally no way that you can make a living playing music, which could be possible after this, I mean, I don't know, then I would say face that and move on and take action in something else. Obviously, that doesn't mean to quit what you're passionate about. It just means you got to make a living. It doesn't matter if the thing you want to do exists or not. Sometimes it doesn't. Um, some people are passionate about like collecting popsicle sticks. So just be lucky that you there's some opportunity to make music and make money off of it. Um, I'd say I think there's probably going to be a change in the way that live performances are done after this. I don't know how long that will be and if it will happen, but I would expect some, with all of the media's pushing this like huge fear mongering agenda. I think people are very afraid to see each other. Even when you walk down the street, people avoid you if you notice, and it's very tense with all that very divisive things going on right now. So that is something I think will affect it. I don't know. So this is in a lot of ways screwed up the online thing because before there was a lot of musicians online. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of musicians on the internet, but it wasn't every musician. So because now every musician's trying to make money on the internet, you have to do something remarkable in a way that other musicians aren't trying to do, which is very difficult. Certain things you'll notice, which I've been part of multiple of these now, and Ethan and I are even going to do one of these, is these window videos where you have like Jake in one corner, Ethan in the other corner, your name here, and somebody else. And those are cool. I think those are cool for projects to get like a gist, but if you're trying to do something remarkable right now, that's not going to cut it. So if you're like thinking about doing a serious release, I would get really creative. There's a band, I was talking to my dad about this last night. There's a band called OK Go that's always about they're notable for their really clever music video ideas. And they had one where it was like a Zoom call and everything, and I was excited about it because I was telling my dad, oh, they probably did something really cool, and he's like, no, I watched it, it's just a Zoom thing. But you could easily do something where you like pass something over to the next frame, and it doesn't even have to be quite exactly right. You could do like pass like a guitar, and then if the other person owns a guitar, they could just pick up their guitar and it would look like it transformed through the slide. Or you could like pass pictures or something. There's different things you could do to make it more engaging than just sitting there with your instrument, especially because usually when people do those, they're like recording at the same time, so they're really focused. So you have like a click in your ear and you're like, boom, 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 like very boring. So I think people are going to have to get creative on how they make money, and I think people need to be prepared to lead a changing industry with extinct components to it.
Okay. Yeah, that was you actually brought up a really interesting point that I especially when we talked about this last week that I didn't even think about, is that pretty much every artist is online now. Live streaming, just any sort of online presence, every artist is online now, which is basically more than tripling or quadrupling your your competition. So yeah, pretty much what you said. People are gonna have to start getting creative if they want to make a living with music.
Yeah.
Assuming that music moves online as much as we think it is, which right now it's starting to look like that's what might happen. Because
Yeah, well,
right
remember,
now,
we had different opinions about that, where I was more so, I think live stuff is going to start making more income after time. So
right.
I think the issue with, so there's certain things that I think a lot of musicians miss. And these things would be like, there's different tiers of it. There's the musicians who I think are musicians for the aesthetic approval of other people. And these are the people that only post pictures of themselves playing their instrument in high definition, but no sound. And I've actually seen it to the point where they take a video of them playing a piece and they mute it and they upload it. So, like an entire performance. I thought, wow, this is really strange. And I thought, oh, maybe it's like a little example video. It was like 15 minutes of just silent viola or violin or cello or whatever. I don't even remember what it was. But so I think that's like the bottom tier. If you're that, there's so many musicians online that just posting aesthetic pictures of you playing violin, you're not sticking out any more than the word art pictures or what are those pictures called? The open source ones that everyone can use?
Stock photos.
Stock photo. Yeah, you're just a stock photo. Sorry. The second tier, and I'm making these up as I go, of course, but the second tier of this would be, I'd say people that just play, and that's fine. I think it's a really great tool to share your music with the world. But I think there are people that do that and have an expectation that it's going to go viral when they don't have any intention as to how they're going to share it and what they're going to share it with. So you have people uploading a song named Love Song, and they upload it to YouTube, and they do no promoting. They don't do any sort of engagement with other people. They don't show their personality anyway. And you're already competing with the famous Sarah Bareilles song, Love Song. Plus, all the other people have named a song Love Song or have said something like how to write a love song or anything with love and song in the title. And so I think people need to start showing more of their story and more of their personality online, because I don't think anyone wants to connect with someone they don't know anymore when there is competition where you can be their friend. There are multiple musicians who have a phone number you can text. They have a separate thing. Just so if you want to hang out with the band, you just say, hey, what's up? That might not be for you. I don't give out my phone number on the internet necessarily, but maybe one day I would. And if I did, it would be on a separate phone. So I'm not going to give out my, but maybe you do something like that. Maybe you set up an email account and you're like, email me a question and I'll answer you, or email me this, whatever it would be. Maybe you could do like if you're really good at singing, if you're a really good technical player, you could go, email me a video of you doing this and I will give you feedback for free. An issue I see with young musicians is they expect payment without results. And what I mean by that is they don't have a portfolio built up, but they're still entitled to the results that someone professional gets. So they want to go from never having gotten a paid gig in their life to getting $500 a gig with no online portfolio and no professional experience. And you don't need to have both of those things, but you should have one of them and you should be good at it. So, I think people they're almost entitled to the outcome. But now you can't be. That might have worked 10 years ago. 2010, you upload a video of you playing guitar. Facebook is just, I don't remember when Facebook came out, but I remember hearing about it around 2010 a lot. You put up a video of you doing something on a guitar. Well, hey, Bertha's only got 10 friends, and you're going to pop up on her feed, and she's going to like it because it's interesting. And she might share it because she's never even seen someone play guitar in person, let alone online. That's crazy. So, but now everyone's on the internet. There's so much stuff that the algorithms have to cut information out because there's so much you can't bleed through the thing. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have to say. I went on a tangent about that one.
You're good. I'm pretty much done with that too. Jake, what inspires you?
All right. So I also talked about this one a little bit last time, but I want to spend some time on this. I think it's important. So that word is a dicey one. Meaning I think it's a slippery slope. And I see people use this word when they have opportunities to have other discussions with really notable people. And I'm not saying it's a bad question. I'm going to answer the question and everything. But what I see is, I'm just going to name some random person. This would never happen in my school, but this is an example just so people get the idea. Bruno Mars of cello comes to Shenandoah University or whatever university you're at. And so Bruno Mars of cello comes and you're a cellist. All these things about cello you don't know about. You probably, if you're like me, I'm studying bass over here, the bass, and there's simple things about my shoulders I don't get. 10-minute conversation, if I was really, if they were really good with something, you could ask a question about that. You could ask a question about how they make their money. Even then, kind of hard because you have to make your own path as a musician and as a person. But the inspiration question is what everyone asks, and people will repeat it in different wordings. What inspires you? They'll give their answer. How do you keep doing it every day? Well, that's kind of similar, not quite the same, but same tier of stuff. How do you avoid getting burnout? Stuff like that. The same general questions of these like mindset stuff, which is fine. I think people miss the point. So here's what I would say. Inspiration and motivation are different, and I'm going to differentiate between the two of them. I think inspiration, a lot of people look for, but it's short term. And it's all about good feelings. So you're inspired usually after maybe you've went to a talk at like a conference or something, and someone's like, you can do it. And then after you're like, I'm going to do it. But like 3 days later, you're not. Or, New Year's resolution, you're going to go to the gym. And then all those gyms put out their ads because I know for the first month they're going to get 90% of their business for the year or whatever. So that's what inspiration does. I don't know if I would consider myself a very inspired person. I will get inspiration for things, but day to day, I don't feel inspired. Most days, I don't feel inspired. I just get up and do things. I struggle sometimes with consistency. I might struggle with stuff like that. I'm getting better about all that. But what I am is motivated. And what motivates me are not happy, exciting things about how great I am. They are a mixtures of potentials of both positive and negative things that could happen. So positives, what could be, if you are amazing at something, if you're a master of your instrument and you can sell, you could be a millionaire. Yo-Yo Ma is probably a millionaire, and he's got both of those things. He knows how to market himself really well, or at least he figured out who to talk to about it, and he knows how to play the cello really well. That's one example of motivation. If you have those skills, it'll open up doors for you that you didn't have before. Another example is you go, I might die tomorrow. If I don't do this, then I will have to be on a job that I hate for the rest of my life. If I don't do this, my family will be hungry. And that obviously isn't something I have to worry about. I'm young, but I have things like that. I go, okay, well, there is no tomorrow that's guaranteed. So to sit there and go, oh, I'm just going to go around tomorrow, you don't have tomorrow necessarily. Even if you think you do, you might not. So the only moment you have to really take action is now. Inspiration will give you a temporary remedy to a long-term problem. I think the only way you can go into building things in a way that you might feel as inspiration will be by building habits that fulfill what your goals are, so that you do things every day that are almost automatic, that gets you closer to where you want to be. And this is done by setting very specific goals about what you want and with very specific intention about where you are. The other thing is you need to be very aware as to who you spend time with. If you spend time with people who bring you down, and it's not always very straightforward, you will not be able to progress, I think. So maybe at the beginning, you don't want to like diss people. You don't want to be rude or selfish. People are important. But if you spend time around someone who talks about, how you'll never get what you want, or life is given to people and no one ever has to work hard for anything, spending 20 hours a day with that person every day of the week, if that's like your best friend, is probably not the choice you want to make. So go into making habits. Don't only think about the good things that could happen, because that'll inspire you for like a week. But also think about the bad stuff, because it's way worse. You want inspiration about how you need to work out? If you don't work out, you'll be fat for the rest of your life and you'll have a cardiac problem and all this stuff. That's worst case scenario. But if you're trying to motivate yourself, that's the option. If you go in the direction you're going and you're having a problem battling whatever weight struggle thing you're having, the worst case scenario is you keep going on your trajectory and then you're so bad that no matter what, you can't turn it around. People have that issue with drugs. People have that issue with all kinds of things. So I don't think inspiration is what people should be looking for. There's actually an Elon Musk quote, and this quote it was really funny. It's he was at a conference and there's all these like Elon Musk heads, so to speak, like these really excited kids. They're like, just love Elon Musk. And they came to this conference and they're all asking him questions. And this one kid was like, what inspires you to do what you do? And he said, if you need inspiration, don't do it. So I think that's it. I think to end this, what I want to say is, here's the deal. People often I think people see things that people do and they look at them completely wrong. So many times people look up like morning routines of a billionaire or whatever the thing is. And I don't think, here's what I think. I think a lot of people think that to become a billionaire, you need to have the morning routine of one. But I think where they don't understand is it's not that billionaires did that routine to become a billionaire. It's that people who are supposed to be billionaires and are built to be billionaires do things like this. So it's not like they did those things to get there. Those are, I guess you could say, symptoms or other things they do that are there. But there are plenty of people that get up at 4 a.m. every morning and work out till their hands bleed and then read 6 books or whatever. There's always some ridiculous, like, crazy, billionaire workout routine or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's not that those are the things that got them there. It's people that are like this do things like this. Not people do things like this to become people like this. So maybe you're not the person to go sit like Elon Musk and one day go work on your Tesla, and the next day go build a rocket, and the next day build a giant tunnel that makes cars go really fast. That might not be you. That's cool. Maybe you're not even the person that does the thing that you think you like to do. I have a video about identity and doing what you love. I think that would go into it really well. Do something that you really like. I'm not talking about for money, but just if you need inspiration to do something, you probably shouldn't do it. Do it for fun, maybe, or do it for a living or whatever, but just find something in your life that you can do where you don't need inspiration, that you can sit down and do every day. And that could be as simple as making yourself a good meal or spending time with someone you care about in a committed way. So I think using your time on something that you know that you enjoy the process of and being involved in is important. I like songwriting a lot. I don't get up and every day, like every song I write, I'm not like, oh, this is the time of my life. I'm enjoying songwriting so much. But when I'm in it, it's fine. It flows. It's very comfortable. I might get aggravated, but it usually goes okay. And even when I'm not motivated, I'm able to do it. It's never something I sit down and go, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I need some inspiration. Now, there are things like that. Sometimes I have that trouble with playing like a classical bass piece where I get really aggravated and it's draining. Well, I could get really good at doing that, but I'm not going to. So I don't know. I think that, what do you think? Did that cover it pretty well?
Yeah. In fact, you gave me a lot to reflect on and ponder. So that's something that I'm going to have to ask myself after thinking about everything, because you just like blew my mind, basically. I'll put it that way. You really turned around my way of thinking as far as that word goes. So yeah. In conclusion, I have no retort.
Okay, well, we're helping somebody, I guess. Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. Yeah, another thing I would say is whatever you decide to do, there's going to be a point where you have to do something. And if you want to be a master of something, sometimes it honestly is just a matter of you have to make a commitment for that to be the long game. So I have a really easy tendency to go want to play with stuff that has nothing to do with what I want to do long term. And I can get really creative about stuff that I don't know anything about. I love daydreaming about woodworking. You know what I know about woodworking? Nothing. And I have a choice. I could go do woodworking, and I probably even love it, but I would be shoving a long time in music down the drain. And so I almost look at skills in a lot of different ways. And when you're trying to get better at something as a marriage, it's not every day. This is my opinion on marriage, or long-term relationships. You don't wake up every day that with someone you're super close with and you're like, this is the greatest person in my life. It's like, oh, they forgot to do the dishes for 4 days straight. And they yelled at me and all this other stuff. And I think our interests are kind of like that. There's a similar experience I have with it. It's like my base is my wife in a way, not in like a I will never marry kind of way, but just it's this long-term, usually good, often awful, and sometimes great experience. But that's how everything is. But the real last thing on that is, again, I'm going to just repeat it. people look for things that really successful, or people that they determine as really successful do as answers to be who they are. But it's often the other way around. This is really important. I think people go, okay, this person that's a bodybuilder eats eggs for breakfast every day. So to become a bodybuilder, I'm going to eat eggs for breakfast every day. That will help you become healthier, maybe, if you're eating donuts right now. But eating eggs for breakfast every day is not what makes you become a bodybuilder. Being a bodybuilder is what makes you eat eggs for breakfast every day. People get it backwards, or whatever bodybuilders do. I know nothing about bodybuilding, but that's the point. All right. That's next question.
What kind of music do you want to write, record, and distribute?
So I really want to write, record, and distribute karaoke music. No, kidding. Like karaoke backing track. So here's an interesting thing I've been thinking about. Right now, I don't know exactly. I have written a lot of songs. I don't know what the standard for a lot of songs are, but I've written at least 100 songs, more probably. I know it's a lot. I know it's so many that when I go into the section of my iPad where it's like songs I've written, it just goes and goes and goes, and I would never know half of them anymore. But I think that's necessary because when you practice something and you're trying to get better, you have to do repetitions of something. So you got to write all these bad songs so you can figure out kind of how it works and stuff like that. But sometimes you also have to experiment to know what you want. So I'm trying out, maybe I want to be like a folk guy. I had a phase of that for a while where I was writing like these folk songs. That's probably where I started. Now where I think I want to go is, and there's a few directions that I could see. One is like neo-soul funk stuff, like trippy funk. That stuff is so cool. Like Hiatus Coyote, or even less trippy but more proggy would be like, there's a band called Naughty Professor that is so good. They're like this prog metal funk band. They're insane. Then there's like a pop funk section of life I really like. Like this funk hybrid stuff is really cool. I usually get kind of like with just plain old school funk, I'm like, okay, this is really repetitive, because what they'll do is they'll have a bass line, bum 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 bum, and the whole song you skip in 3 minutes. Bum 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 bum. 6 minutes in, it's just louder but the same thing. So that kind of funk, I'm like, but I really like the hybrids of stuff. So that is one thing I really like, is like funk with neo soul, R&B, stuff like that mixed in. I like pop music. I don't like the super, I guess new pop music is rap, and I probably won't be a rapper. But like what I consider pop music, if I can give this explanation to you, would be like Bruno Mars, or like those summer refresh songs you hear when you get in your car and you're listening to like just the upbeat nice songs. They're fun to listen to, and I like having songs that lift people up, so that is cool. Another direction I've thought about going into, and this is simply because of me trying to narrow down what I'm doing, again, trying to play the long game, is into like singer-songwriter bass stuff. And this is what I'll be pursuing for the foreseeable future, because I can't find a way that I can finish a bachelor's degree in performance on double bass and pursue songwriting without them being combined in some sort of way. And because every time I songwrite, I take time away from this, and every time I do this, I take time away from songwriting. So there's got to be some sort of compromise made there. But here's what I want to say about all this that I've thought about, and I don't get why this doesn't happen that much. When you can upload any song at any time for free, why do you have, and also genres have basically lost meaning. People upload metal songs and they don't sound like metal. Indie means whatever you want. I mean, literally. It's supposed to mean independent, but there are people who are signed indie, like they're labels for indie artists. And I'm sure there's a culture, like I'm sure there's an explanation for that, but that defeats the purpose, in my opinion. At least at surface value. Like, and even then, there's like, I kind of think I know what indie means. Like, there's a certain sound kind of with it or whatever, like this like trippy pop thing going on maybe, or like this like chill thing, but it doesn't mean anything. Pop means nothing. Pop is popular, and pop used to mean big band music, and then it meant like the Beatles, and then it meant I don't even know, Michael Jackson, Bruno Mars, and now like Kendrick Lamar. It's so different now. It doesn't mean anything. So why don't we just release whatever we want, not worry about a genre, and if we're feeling it, we're feeling it. Bruno Mars even doesn't really. I mean, his music has pop elements in all of them, like traditional sounds you would hear in like pop songs, but every every album is a completely different project. And I think that could be a way that music could go. Because why not? It costs you nothing to upload an album tomorrow of polka music. If that's what you want to do. If you're a rapper and you want to upload polka music, no one cares. It might not blow up. Who cares? If that's what you're really into. Now, it's also interesting because I don't know how the music industry is going to look after this. I could see things going into a country direction. Now, that's a very distinct genre, I think, for the most part. It's very defined, similar to like hip hop rap stuff. It's like there's a few genres where you know what it is right immediately. If you hear a country accent, it's country music. So with that, I could see, because I play upright bass, that happening. But yeah, what about you, Ethan? If that's something you're even interested in?
So yeah, I've actually recently been getting into folk stuff like Sirius Bright, Lumineers, stuff like that. I really like that kind of stuff. I'm hoping I can broaden my abilities and skills as far as musicianship goes, as well as a sound engineering goes, so that I can write, record, and distribute this music myself. Another thing that I've been really interested into getting into is the other side of the spectrum, which is this like weird kind of phasey neo pop kind of thing. And I say that by are you familiar with the artist Jack Stauber?
No.
Cool. So he basically writes these. His work is either psychedelic synth stuff or kind of like little pop beats with just wild, jumpy vocals. And it's really interesting stuff, and it interests me. So I'm thinking, I have the equipment. Why don't I just do it? So
Exactly.
those are the two things that I want to start getting into. And whatever else comes after that comes after that. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, nothing you do is going to, unless you like hurt somebody, nothing you do is going to take opportunity away from you.
Music with malice.
Yeah, that should be a band name or something. That's cool. There should be like a metal name for that or whatever.
Metal name, yeah.
But even like you said, neo pop. What does neo mean? New, but like in a different language, I guess. So new, and there's like neo and everything. But the neo almost attributes to other genres. So like when I think of neo soul or neo folk, it's like music with electronics in it. Maybe that's a qualifier for that. But then when you have neo pop, pop is electronic music with vocals on top. So then you have, it's just a weird thing. Yeah, I'd say any music that's fun to play that I can make a lot of money from.
That's a way to put it. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to write commercial jingles sometimes, but I don't want that to be my career.
Yeah.
I've written a few. They're all equally progressing. So, yeah. Is there any more questions?
No, that was the last one. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot one, but I remember what it is in my head. I already kind of answered it, but so I'm going to ask Ethan. So the one that was left was, what was the best thing that happened to you this week? And so I'm going to have Ethan answer that.
Thing that happened to me this week. Honestly, my little barbecue thing that happened today. It's like a small group of friends, just the four of us from high school. We're really good friends. I missed hanging out with them a lot. We do a lot of dumb stuff, but it's like safe dumb stuff where it's funny from a first person, second person, and third person point of view. And we were talking about getting together over the summer more and just doing wacky stuff over the summer, and it just made me really happy that I was getting that aspect of my life back.
Good.
So that I would say that's the best thing that happened to me this week.
Those are good things.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm almost sneezing. Yeah, I think I kind of touched on it earlier, but I'm going to take a new perspective on this. My biggest thing this week was a change in perspective. And it had to do with this program that I got into. I made an Instagram video about it, so check it out. It just talks about the people I saw. Their stories are incredible. What I've learned, and here's the balance. You listen to somebody who wants to do hard work and do big things in the way they define them, doesn't mean you need to do their big things. So there's someone out there who wants to study fingernails for a living, and they will study that way harder than you ever would, like how to heal nails or whatever, and that's cool. So don't, if you don't want to work hard on one thing that someone else does, it doesn't matter. But what I learned was there are people, no matter what, that work harder than you. It doesn't matter. It's easy to go, okay, I'm on the top of my tier. It doesn't mean anything. You're probably on the bottom. So if you're the best in the bottom, you're the worst on the second bottom, and you don't even appear on the top level. So there are 20-year-olds right now, for anyone that doesn't understand, and people who want to do great things, there are 20-year-olds right now who are running businesses. There are 20-year-olds right now who are about to go into major careers. There are 20-year-olds who have fundraised money to make major change in the world. Do something. You might not need to do, it might not be your purpose to run a multi-million-dollar company. That's cool. Make someone's life better. Call your grandma. But don't just consume all the time. That's what I'd say. It doesn't mean you have to get up at 4 a.m. and exercise and post an Instagram video of you never stop the grind. No one can sleep. I don't sleep. Every day I wake up, and I just wake up constantly because I never sleep. I think some people have a very distorted idea as to they almost lay other people's expectations on themselves without them even knowing them, like an online celebrity. And they're like, I got to be like this guy. Well, maybe you take inspiration from that, but don't do it. Don't try to live for their approval. All right. I think that's all I got to say today. This has gone on long again, but I'm glad that it was a little less tangential. The questions are good. After we got through that orange one, which was a great question if you are watching this, but very different than the rest of the stuff going on. Again, we are probably going to have guests on this show, so get ready for that. And also, it's going to get probably a little better because we're getting a lot better at this. Our public speaking skills have improved. Actually, I'll show you a graph. Are you ready? So this was our public speaking skills before, and this is our public speaking skills after. You can't see it because they're so high. They're up here. So just keep in mind that that scale will continue to go up until we will be so good at speaking that we will be able to, without opening our mouths, telepathically tell you what we feel. So just get ready for that because we're really cool. And I can't wait to have another episode of the greatest show ever made, ever on the history of time, including Egypt. I don't know why Egypt, but
Egypt.
Last words, Ethan?
Keep being cool, people.
We'll do a Q&A for the next episode too, but it probably won't be as many questions because everyone got their questions out of their system. All right. Bye.